Well, happy Friday, everyone. We've had this week of all kind of educational. I want to finish Friday today talking about sexual vitality for women over 40. Well, to talk about this, we have a TEDx speaker, an author, a researcher, Dr. Saida. She is talking about psychology of sexual wellness, which most of us don't understand, but that is so important for us to understand. Thank you so much, Dr. Saida.
It's amazing to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So let's just start with, there's a psychological part of sexual wellness. Then there's also the physical part that's happening in women because of the hormones going down. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to frame this in two parts. We're going to look at kind of what everyone accepts as the known experience, and then we're going to go into what I call possibility. So the known experience is that when you get to a certain age, and now actually it's even women over 30, because younger and younger women are starting to go in what's called a stress-induced menopause. So I'm going to talk about it. Let's just say whenever there's enough change where you notice a fluctuation in the hormones that starts creating a change in your desire, a change in maybe the tissues of your vagina, a change in perhaps even like your breast health, all of these things, they happen often because of this hormonal dip, as it's called. So a drop in libido is very interesting. Yes, it can be related to hormones. There are other factors as well, but that is a traditional kind of marker when a woman is quote unquote aging, that there can be a drop in libido. There's also such things as vaginal dryness. This is one of the things that a lot of my clients will come to me for. Vaginal wall thinning is another thing that clients will often come to me for. So that's what I want to just address. That this is very normal. It can happen, and it's happening younger and younger. And now what we need to talk about, Amita, is what do we need to do about this?
Absolutely. And that's where you come in. These physical changes are going to happen in all the women. And you're saying there's an early menopause because of the stress that women go through, because all of us are working now. So what can women do to help themselves?
Yes. So the first thing to understand, I'm not a medical doctor, but I am a researcher, and I look at the psychology behind what happens to our sexuality, our libido, and our bodies. So one thing I noticed is that, let's take, for example, a drop in libido. Actually, now what they are finding, the newest research is, unless there is a chemically induced reason for the drop in libido. So let's say someone has breast cancer, they have to do hormone blockers that can cause a tremendous drop, a complete loss of libido. But what they've started to notice that because women are not having the kind of sexual experiences that are actually satisfying, this is the number one thing that's actually dropping the libido. So by the time you get to mid-30s, early 40s, you're at a place where you're a little more savvy. You're at a place where you don't want to put up with as much, say, stuff from your youth. You have more boundaries. You're more clear about what you want. You have higher standards. So if the situation of your life is not satisfying, it is incredibly normal and natural for the libido. I call it going into hibernation. So when it's not a chemically induced one, meaning you've taken certain types of hormone therapies to actually block your libido, then we have to look at lifestyle, and we have to look at what's behind our desire. So to keep this very simple, what are the things right now in your life that actually do turn you on? Is there anything at all? And if there isn't, would you be curious enough to start leaning in that direction to go, maybe this can turn me on? And what I mean by turn on could be, maybe you're a very busy woman, you have kids, you've got a husband, you're running a business, and you never have time to stop. So maybe you make time to stop, and you just get to lean against a tree in your yard or your neighborhood. And in that moment of leaning against the tree, you feel this pleasure in your body, this like letting go feeling. So that would be an indicator of move more in that direction. for that kind of person. Or maybe you're the type of person that enjoys coffee. And when you drink your coffee, you have a sense of pleasure, a sense of delight. And you're like, oh, so maybe increasing things that you take through your mouth, like food and beverages, that actually help you feel more connected to your body. So you experience joy when you like smell a strawberry and then you eat it. Then I would say that's a sensual practice, and that would be a really good direction to go in, because anything you can do, practical, everyday, ordinary things that help you feel a little bit more joy and a little bit more alive, that's your secret sauce to bringing your libido back. That's one piece. If you look at that hormonally, it is because if we're running stress hormones, it cuts everything off, because when we're super stressed, we're not geared for sex. That's just natural evolution. If you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, it's not time to have sex. So everything switches off. So what we have to do is disrupt that stress cycle and actually make very intentional choices around creating pleasure for ourselves, not just sexual. I'm just saying pleasure, joy, peace, and doing that more to disrupt the stress cycle. Then your body's natural pleasure hormones can come back online. But it takes time if all you've been doing is a lot of stress. Now, for vaginal wall thinning and lack of lubrication, I've helped women even way past menopause, all the way into 60s, 70s, 80s, completely reclaim a very youthful vagina through some basic pelvic floor breathing. And so I want you to start understanding, because we are a culture, global culture that sits, we are actually harming our pelvic floor area through sitting. So you want to be practicing maybe like walking a little more. Sometimes if you're sitting all day, stand up and stretch and make some hip circles. Or if you are sitting and you can't move that much, practice breathing, where when you inhale, you kind of push your breath all the way down to the very bottom of your most bottom part of your torso, that pelvic floor area, and then relax. And you breathe and you inhale, really expand that area and relax. This will bring an extra blood flow and actually help the cells and the tissues rejuvenate and regenerate. Lubrication is always a thing of circulation. There's not enough circulation, you're going to lose lubrication. So actually, they've also found, this is very interesting, with older women who are post-menopause, have no good hormones, like in the tests, they meet a new lover and suddenly everything is better. They're wet, they're excited, they can have sex. And it defies the laws of the tests, because like, how can she even be turned on right now based on her hormonal panel? So there's something magical about a woman's heart that is excited and enthused and inspired, because it gets all the juices going in the body. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Is it's not the end of something when we go through a hormonal shift. It's actually the beginning of something. And so the last piece I wanted to say around this power time of life. So going into that menopausal time, in the old days, it was referred to as your power stage. It's when you're the most powerful phase of expression of your life. Modern day has harmed women by making you feel like you have no worth when you're past 25. But actually, you have incredible worth because you have wisdom, you have compassion, you have a more connection to your family, to your environment. So you're very, very important as a role in your community and in your family. So in this power stage of life, in old traditions, women had the most amazing sex of their life, not the worst. So what we've essentially done is entrained women to believe that everything's downhill, everything is finished, and now you have a multi-billion-dollar industry that sells you all kinds of stuff because you think you're broken. When now studies are showing, and this has also been true when I work with women, that if women reclaim their pleasure, get a little bit more active, take a little bit better care of themselves physically, meaning you move a little more, you do pleasureful activities, you honor your own heart, that all of these kind of low-level hormones start to actually rejuvenate and regenerate. So that's kind of an edgy thing to say, but it is leading edge. A lot of the biohacking aspects of, say, women's health is now really looking at that and understanding that your psychology plays a massive impact on the quality of your physicality. So the last thing I'll leave you with is a book called Breaking the Age Code. And in that, there was a research that said, simply changing one belief about aging will improve your life tremendously by like 8 years of more vitality. One belief. So if we can today in this discussion just change this weird idea that after a certain age, I'm no more good, and change it to, I'm just going to be more juicy and more alive and more connected and more inspired as I progress through life, you actually will be shifting your own biology based on that latest research.
That is incredible. I didn't know. I mean, and how we think is personification of, you know, our physical, right? And we don't understand. We just only think of sex or sexual wellness sometimes, at least in Asian cultures, is mainly about fertility and giving birth to the kids.
Yes.
And after that, it's not really, it's a taboo. It's a taboo
It's a taboo
to be discussed.
Yes.
Even in this country, for that matter. It doesn't matter globally, for that matter, right? Any
Yes,
thoughts on
yes.
that being a taboo topic and we don't talk about it at all?
Yeah, it's very sad that we don't talk about it, because if you actually look at a lot of studies and research about how to optimize the body, how to actually like be your best self on a biological level, you must let the body be first, more often in parasympathetic, that means relaxation, and actually in the experience of joy or pleasure. And I'm not just talking sexual pleasure again, I'm talking that feeling of peace and aliveness and goodness in your body. If you could do those things, your entire body, all the systems in your body, optimize, because they're designed for that. You're not designed to be in stress and distress 24/7. Your body actually wasn't designed for that. So it's very, very important that we educate the public on small, ordinary ways to just using breath, taking slow, deeper breaths, down-regulate out of stress into relaxation, noticing through our senses, our sensuality, how we make sense of reality, and enhancing simple little things. The wonderful feeling of a hug of someone you love, the beauty of sunlight through trees, like any of these things, they actually help optimize our systems.
Well, thank you so much. I think it's so powerful. We just have to think on a daily basis, like you said, just one thing on a daily basis that'll give us joy, that will help us in all of the other things that we are talking about.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Anything, last thoughts that you want to share, your book or your website or anything?
Sure.
It's a 20-minute session that we bring on a daily basis.
Yeah, sure. So my website is dareyourdesire.com, dareyourdesire.com. Lots of free resources there. You can also find me on Instagram. There's a lot of resources there. And really your mindset definition will create reality. So just have a look. How have you defined yourself? Do you feel inspired by that definition or not? And then you have the power to change that definition.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Saida. Thank you, everyone. We're coming out with our programs focused on mid-women's health. So stay tuned. Thank you.